what is happening.
Okay.
Your Excellency, you have said you do not want to leave anybody behind. And I think at a period when we are celebrating our independence, the viewers back home would want to know, in a climate where it is so polarized politically for Zimbabwe, they want to understand. There is one man called Nelson Chamisa who is standing aloof, standing there. What are the preconditions, or what conditions are there for you to create a working relationship with them?
Well, you have mentioned this one Zimbabwean.
Yes.
You forget that him and his vice president went to America to ask for sanctions to continue to be imposed on Zimbabwe. So before they cut that biblical cord with the Americans, it is difficult to be proper Zimbabweans. We have created a platform where every genuine patriotic Zimbabwean can come and participate, and they use their talents and they contribute to the global national vision. It's not a Mnangagwa vision, it's not a ZANU-PF vision, it's a national vision for our people. In a democracy, we debate issues, and the best debate on the day takes the day. That's what we must do. And we have created the platform so that nobody is left behind. For instance, it does not follow that you should everybody say yes, yes, yes. I wouldn't want yes people around me. I want people who argue with me, and I argue with them. At the end of the day, I know that those who are arguing against have the interests of the country at heart, and those who argue for, they have also the interests of the country at heart, and the based argument takes the day.
As we grew up, the president, any child, an errant child, would get a bit of a shambok to whip them into line, either physically or through other measures, maybe counseling. What are we doing with this child of ours, Nelson Chamisa?
Well, I still believe that Mr. Chamisa is a young Zimbabwean. He still has that opportunity to positively contribute to his country. If he puts aside the vision for violent demonstrations against his country, being destructive, destroying property, and in the process people die, and if he decides that he shall have constructive debate, constructive opposition in the country, everybody will embrace constructive criticism, constructive debate, constructive contribution to the country. But if you are going to be destructive and they say, I will destroy in order to rise on destruction to power, then that is not viable.
And the defections that have been happening from the MDC, people coming over to ZANU-PF, does it speak to that childish behavior that you speak about?
Well, I think that as you go on, our people, our Zimbabwean people, are very disdainful. Our people. They realize that the future lies with those who preach peace, harmony, and unity, not those who preach demonstrations. There is no country that is built on demonstrations and violence. Countries are built on unity, harmony, peace, and love. This is why what is happening is happening.
So talking about more members coming to join ZANU-PF in the elections, are you confident that the party will win and carry the day?
If you have a leader of a political party who goes into an election with the hope of not winning, that person should not be a leader of a party.
How confident are you that you are going to win?
I'm extremely confident based on the work that we are doing and the positive reception which we receive from the public of what we are doing, and the resolution which we are achieving, both in terms of resolving hunger in the country, in terms of providing energy, in terms of providing good roads in the country, in terms of providing fuel, in terms of increasing and modernizing our health sector. I think with all these positive issues, which continues to improve, the people will feel that they must give us a chance to do more.
So your Vision 2030, was it prophetic, or was it the confidence that you have that you will still be in power?
It's born out of suffering and the wish to fight the challenges.
Your Excellency, let me take you back to the bilateral dispute between Harare and London, which was sparked obviously by the land reform program. Where are we now as a nation in terms of the compensation for affected farmers? And how is the relationship now?